Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about this insane new poll from Morning Consult that shows a Democrat leading in the Texas Senate race in 2024. This is the very first poll of 2024 that shows Texas going blue in any race, and it's an important one. Texas, it looks like, could control who wins the U.S. Senate in 2024. Whoops, wrong map. Because if Democrats do, in fact, carry the state of Texas, then they are extremely likely to win control of the Senate, which is hard to believe. You know, I would not believe this if someone said that a month ago. But this Texas Senate race, this is Ted Cruz, the Republican. He's running for re-election against a Democrat, Colin Allred, who's a U.S. representative. Used to play in the NFL, actually. And Colin Allred has, done something here that is extremely hard to do for a Democrat. Now, he has not won the race, and this is just a Morning Consult poll. It's not the most accurate pollster by any means, but what he has done is he has led in a poll. That's difficult, and that's the first step for any, Democrat running in a statewide race in a red state like Texas. I'll remind you, Texas voted for Donald Trump in the last election by 5.6%. Before that, in 2016, it was by 9. Before that, in 2012, it was by 15 points. If you said to someone 10 years ago, 2014, that Texas could elect a Democratic senator, or just say that a Democrat has led in a Senate race, statewide Senate race poll, they would not have believed you. Texas is a traditionally extremely Republican state, but it is one of these states that is becoming bluer and bluer every year. And, one of the fastest growing blue states, we can just see here quickly, but this is the trend map from the 2012 election. Whoops, let me reverse these. From the 2012 election to the 2020 election. So what you see here is that Wisconsin became 6 points more Republican. Michigan became 6 points more Republican. You see the majority of states became more Republican, and those that did become more Democratic, the handful, it's by very narrow margins. Oklahoma, for example, by 0.4%. Colorado by 8%. That's significant. Maine first district by 1.7%. North Carolina by 0.69%. There's only a handful of states that became significantly more Democratic, that have become more Democratic from 2012 when Barack Obama won re-election versus 2020 when Joe Biden won his first election. The number one state is Texas. Texas became 10 points more Democratic from 2012 to 2020. That's stunning. It is clearly a trending left state, and yes, they are going to elect Democrats in the future, and once Texas does turn blue on the presidential level, then the Republican Party may cease to exist as we know it. I don't know how they could possibly win a presidential election if Texas is going blue. But this video is about the Senate race, because Texas could be critically important, because Democrats, whoops, wrong map again. Democrats have a very tough map in the Senate races in 2024. So what I mean by that is when you look at the battleground states in the 2024 presidential, but also Senate races, the vast majority of the Senate races are currently Democratic seats. So what that means is that Democrats have more seats to defend and fewer to flip, while Republicans have less to defend and more opportunity to flip seats. So, for example, what I mean is Nevada, Arizona, Montana, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio are all Democratic seats. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 10 battleground seats are all held by Democrats. That should be concerning. You can argue if Nebraska is even competitive at all. We don't know. We don't have enough data. So, Democrats have a lot of place to defend. And, that was the plan, right? That was the plan. They currently have 51 seats in the Senate. So they have, if they win the presidency, you win the majority. If you have the vice presidency, the VP casts the tie-breaking vote. Again, they currently have 51 seats, so they could spare one. Now, what's also bad for them is that West Virginia is a Democratic seat as well, but Joe Manchin is retiring. That's an automatic flip for the Republicans. So at a minimum, Republicans are already at 50 seats. If Republicans just flip one more seat, then they would get majority. Now, that is what you would think. Now, let me explain. In Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Democrats greatly favored. Nebraska, Republicans heavily favored. Now, you've got Montana and Ohio. And for the purpose of this video, by the way, let's just put Florida red as well. But now you've got Montana and Ohio, and believe it or not, yes, these are red states, but there are Democratic senators from each state. So yes, Democrats can hold these states, and even though Republicans flip West Virginia, they still win majority if they win the presidency, with Tim Walz casting the tie-breaking vote. Or they can win Texas and trade it for Montana. This is where Texas comes into play, because it's becoming more and more likely that Texas goes blue, which is a flip, while Montana, which has a Democratic incumbent, Jon Tester, while Jon Tester in Montana loses. Let's just take a look at the data. And by the way, this race has gotten a lot closer. Just look at these polls from not too long ago. But in Montana, for example, again, this is with a Democratic incumbent. He is down. The Republican is beating him by 6, by 8 in this AARP poll, by 7. This is an outlier, but Tester wins by 5. Republican wins by 6, by 2. Jon Tester is greatly favored to lose. So I believe, can I please stop pressing on that map? So I believe, especially after getting these results, getting these poll results, that Texas is surely more likely to go Democratic than the state of Montana is. So what that means is that, and I've always believed that Jon Tester was doomed in Montana. I never thought he could win, and I still don't. You can't win as a Democrat on a presidential ballot in Montana. You're next to a presidential election because voters are so partisan. So if Texas can go blue, if Colin Allred can outperform the polls, can outperform Kamala Harris by a few points, and if Ted Cruz is weaker than we believe, then they flip that seat, and even though Montana flips, they keep 50 seats. If Harris and Tim Walz win, then they win control of the Senate. This proves that it is possible. Yes, Republicans are still favored to win the control of the Senate, and of course they are still favored to win the state of Texas. This is one single poll, but it shows that Texas is available. In a last resort option, if Montana looks less and less likely to go blue, as well as Ohio for that matter, then Democrats have to look elsewhere. They have to look where places they can flip seats. They don't have to defend every single seat. They can lose some, and they can flip others. That is the main thing here. Now, I do want to talk about, when it comes to this race specifically, and the chance that Colin Allred can win, let's look back at the last election that Ted Cruz ran in. This is 2018. Whoops, not Montana, but Texas. So Texas, of course, the Senate race was between Ted Cruz and someone who's pretty famous now. He's now running a presidential primary and governor of Texas. That's Beto O'Rourke. He was very popular among Democrats. Now, Beto O'Rourke, people forget this, but Beto O'Rourke quite literally outperformed the polls. He outperformed the polls somehow, even though people forget this all the time. Ted Cruz ended up winning by 2.6%. It was 50.9 to 48.3. That's a 2.6% margin for Ted Cruz in Texas back in 2018. But look at the polls. The last poll, now this is a Republican-leaning organization, but in the very last poll of the race, Ted Cruz led by 9. Before that, in a Democratic poll, it was even. But in the last nonpartisan poll, which is from Emerson College, Ted Cruz led by 3. It was closer than that. Quinnipiac, their last poll had Ted Cruz winning by 5. It was closer than that. University of Texas had Cruz winning by 4. It was closer than that. Dixie Strategies, whatever this is, had him winning by 10. And this is an unbiased, nonpartisan organization. They had him winning by 10. Even a Democratic Political Action Committee and Citizens United had Ted Cruz up by 4. The last poll, or the only poll of all of these very last polls of the race, the only poll that had Beto O'Rourke winning was in an Ipsos poll. It was in one single Ipsos poll that showed him leading by 2, and that's it. So if Colin Allred can lead polls, I mean, Ted Cruz underperformed polls. I really wish it gave us an average here, because that would be really interesting to look at. How much did Ted Cruz underperform the polls in 2018? Because if, on average, this race narrows down to a 2-point lead for Ted Cruz in all the average of the polls, and we see that Ted Cruz, let's say, underperformed by some 2 points in 2018, then it would be a 50-50 race. It would be exactly a toss-up. We wouldn't know who would win the election. So if the polls continue to go in Colin Allred's direction, I mean, even if he doesn't lead any more polls, but Ted Cruz is leading by a point here, 2 points here, even here, maybe once in a while, Colin Allred leads a poll. Democrats should be happy with that. I don't think that they can possibly ask any more out of Texas than that, because, I mean, these 2018 results, Ted Cruz underperformed the polls so much. I mean, again, look at these results. He was expected to win by pretty, substantial margins. I mean, yes, it wasn't, a toss-up race, but it certainly wasn't safe either. So if Colin Allred can do something similar to what Beto O'Rourke was able to do, then he can do this. Not to mention these two factors. Texas has become more blue since 2018. It is a trending left state, and number two, which ties into that, its population is growing rapidly. I mean, the suburbs around Houston is what allowed Beto O'Rourke to really outperform. He did very well among white women specifically, but also Latinos in the Rio Grande Valley. So, and I've always believed Colin Allred was I don't want to say a better candidate than Beto O'Rourke, because it's hard to measure that. It would be marginal, right, if he was, if you would somehow put that out into numbers. But I certainly believe Colin Allred is just as strong of a candidate as Beto O'Rourke is. I mean, his ads are good. He's a pretty likable guy. He has no problem as a candidate. Certainly a much better candidate and much more popular than Ted Cruz. But the issue is Texas is still a Republican state. We will see if that holds up. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe down below. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers before Election Day. Let's see if we could get there. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.